The Kyler Murray Arizona Cardinals experience has been a fun one this offseason. It started with Kyler scrubbing his social media after the owner came out and criticized where they finished off in the season, and there's been this sort of back and forth. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN said he's not reporting, he's not going to play until he gets a new contract. All of that being said, and so there's been some speculation that teams are quote unquote monitoring the situation in case there's a potential trade, because apparently everybody's on the trade block this offseason. Yesterday, the general manager of the Arizona Cardinals, Steve Keim, he answered the question, is there a possibility of Kyler Murray getting traded? And also, what does the timeline look like for a potential deal there for their quarterback?
There's been a lot of speculation out there, the possibility of you guys trading Kyler. Can you rule that out?
Zero chance. The way we've approached it is we have free agency, we have the draft, and then, we'll take a deep breath and sort of refocus. And that's the same reason that every other player that's been a third-year quarterback has been done in the middle of the summer to late summer. And it's just sort of the way that the system works. But nothing has changed in terms of him being our long-term and short-term quarterback.
So there it is, a disappointment for anybody that wanted to get in the Kyler sweepstakes. Apparently he's not going anywhere. He is staying in the desert, according to their general manager.
Now, haven't we heard Steve Keim say something similar in the past? I mean, I remember Steve Keim drafting Josh Rosen number 10 overall
Yikes.
and then trading him the next year. I don't know that I would buy into anything that any general manager says ever, because they'll say never until they're presented with a deal that they can't refuse. And I always feel like you could sell hope and optimism. You can. Like, you can sell that. And so getting a boatload of draft picks for a player who's, I guess, deemed to be unhappy or a problem or wants to be somewhere else, that's the easiest sell by a front office and a general manager. And I could easily see a scenario where if this continues to get ugly, and you're hearing from Steve Keim, and you'll see Michael Bidwell said something similar, but then you hear some guys who've played with him who are like, oh, yeah, no, I could see him leaving. Like, I could see him wanting to get out of Arizona, especially if he feels like they're not giving Kyler Murray everything he needs to win. So I wouldn't put too much weight in anything a general manager or head coach in this case says.
Especially after, Jonas, I give you credit for this, for shedding light on it. When we listened to Pat Peterson, and who was the other player
Chase Edmonds.
Chase Edmonds. If Kyler Murray doesn't feel as though things are going in the right direction in terms of what they're doing in the off seasons to get this team better and put them in position to be able to do more, that's going to hurt what Kyler Murray's ultimate value is moving into the future, right? I mean, if he doesn't get the contract extension that he's looking for this year, and he's unhappy with the way things are playing out, and the team isn't necessarily improving in the offseason, then that's a risky proposition for Kyler Murray to step into. And that being possibly the situation, Kyler Murray very well could let people know and maybe possibly become more vocal about not wanting to be in that type of scenario. So really, in a way, the GM isn't dictating anything outside of what his actions are to show Kyler Murray and the rest of this team that they're going in a direction that's, trending in the right way, in the right path. So I wonder, is there outside of giving a crazy contract to Kyler Murray, I wonder if there's anything that they can do this offseason that would alleviate some of the stress of getting him a paycheck that they may not be ready to give him yet. But if they do give him the paycheck, then what does that mean moving forward as well? Because then that may open up, conversations in terms of, well, he's okay with getting this big contract, but before he got the big contract, he wasn't okay with where the team may have been going in terms of being better moving into the future. It's kind of like where does the balance of it all exist? So I think it's way more on Kyler Murray and what Kyler Murray wants to do, especially how we've seen players handle when they say they don't want to play anymore. It's like becoming a thing. Like, they're really not going to play. Like, that used to just be talk. These dudes really won't play.
Now, Kyler Murray did take to Twitter and say that he did want to win Super Bowls in Arizona, that it's home. So that is his goal there. It feels like we're a little late in the offseason process to just trade him. I don't think he's getting traded. And also, I don't think that there's another spot in the NFL that makes as much sense for Kyler Murray than the Arizona Cardinals. We talked about the Deebo Samuel stuff, and we'll have more on that later on in the show. But it just feels like these two, their value is greater with each other as opposed to him going elsewhere. And we made the point, if Arizona wasn't picking first overall in that draft, is Kyler Murray still going number one overall? Like, I find that hard to believe. It felt like this was a pairing. They got their head coach, they got their quarterback, and now you deal with the ramifications. I would be shocked if he gets dealt.
Just look at the events that have taken place, though, after the season. I mean, if the Michael Bidwell comments about how the season finished, if that's what sparked all this, and I don't know if it is or isn't, but it's odd that after those comments came out, then the scrubbing occurred. And then you heard talk from Kyler Murray's agent about wanting an extension, presenting an extension talks. And, look, he's after 3 years in the league. We've talked about this extensively. He's done everything I think you can ask of a quarterback at this point. The team has done everything you can ask of them over the past 3 years. I think if you're looking at it from their perspective, there's no harm in putting it out there like, hey, we want an extension now, because we want to be able to save you cap space in the next 4 or 5 years as we're trying to chase that Super Bowl. And then my player doesn't have to worry about going into his 5th year, going into a franchise tag and all of that, when he's proven to you year after year after year that he's your guy. And so the odd thing is like this fracture started after Bidwell's comments and, the presentation of a contract that maybe fell on deaf ears. But then, if you think about it, like, if Bidwell's frustration with the way the season ended, with the team and with Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, if he's frustrated, well, how does he come full circle where he gives Keim an extension, Kingsbury an extension, and so now what? But were those comments just about Kyler Murray then?
Yeah.
Because he's the only one who hasn't got an extension. He's the only one that, like, you could say, oh, we're not going to trade him. Okay. But you really want to go through another year 4? I see it from Murray's perspective, but I also see the other side of this where, look at Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland, a year ago, we were talking about Baker Mayfield signing a big-time contract after his 3rd year. And then he finds himself into that 4th year where you're going, oh, okay, now he's on the roster, but probably isn't going to be there in a month or so. Maybe they're looking at this similar. I don't know. I mean, that's the hard part is I do wonder how this Cleveland situation is playing a role with Baker Mayfield, who's a former number 1 overall Oklahoma quarterback, right, who came from that sort of system where, hey, everything looks good in Lincoln Riley's offense, but once you get to the league, how does that change the perception of what you're being asked to do and how you can get better? Are you coming in at your ceiling? I think there's all those questions too.
I just think you have to take into consideration whether there's a better scenario or situation out there for Kyler Murray or not. He's playing the card in a way. And now he comes back. They must be
which card is that?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he wants to be happy playing for Arizona, but he would be happy playing elsewhere.
Well, maybe he saw the A's attendance and was like, you know what? I think I'm better off here. Like, I don't want to play in front of 14 people.
I do think it's interesting, though. He flexed back before baseball had the lockout. Then baseball had the lockout. Then I was like, all right, I can't really talk. Now it's like baseball's back, and he's like, hey, maybe I won't play here anymore. Maybe I'll just go do baseball again.
Yeah.
Back on the table.
I mean, he has people's attention, and they must be talking. If the GM had to come out and make a statement, if the media is asking questions that are relevant to this scenario, there have to be discussions taking place. And I just wonder, how long do you wait, and how important is it to try to keep your franchise player happy? I think that becomes the bigger question here. Like, we could go through all of the other things as to how it plays out or what we think is playing out, but ultimately the quarterback has done what he's supposed to do for this team, are you going to step up and make him whole and make him happy to the tune of somewhere where they can agree to it, or is this going to turn into a thing where it continues on? Because I think the longer it takes, the harder the feelings may be, or the feelings may start to sour, and even by the time you get to a contract situation, there's a possibility that there may have been some damage done just because of the weight.
Can I ask this? Do you guys feel like the Cardinals are an organization that you can bet on or confidently say they're going to do everything they can to help him win a Super Bowl while he's there? Because I think that's one of the concerns, right? Is like, is this an organization that you put up alongside of the others that have won Super Bowls recently or consistently been successful?
They have added a lot of pieces around him. I mean, they made the trade for Zach Ertz last year. They've added pieces in free agency at wide receiver. Yeah, they lost
Hopkins.
They lost Christian Kirk, but I mean, I feel like it's not that they've just said, all right, you figure this out. Yeah, I think they have done some things around him.
But do you believe in the organization?
After parting ways with the coach after 1 year and trading up to take a quarterback in the top 10 and then bailing on him? No, I don't. No.
I mean, that's the question.
No.
Because I think there's a degree that he looks at this and says, as good as this looks as the number one overall pick and Cliff Kingsbury being his coach and that match there, is it could all change in a year's time. Or it could all change in a moment's notice or an offseason. And that's probably a scenario he doesn't want to be in. Like, he wants to be with an organization that's going to commit to him and give him the best opportunity of winning a championship. And that's where you look at him and you say, if you go back through his time in high school to college, that's how he's operated. Like, he's done nothing but basically have success, win championships. He did it in high school. He did it once he got his chance in Oklahoma. Now, he wasn't able to win a national championship, but he won a Big 12 championship, and he left Texas A&M for that opportunity that he felt was better in the Big 12. So when you start to add up, I think his track record, his experience, everything he's gone through, I think he might be looking back at the past 3 years and going, yeah, they've done some stuff out around me, but it's still not enough, and I'm good enough where I should win a Super Bowl. I should be able to win a division championship every single year. And I don't know that they're giving me that chance this year. That's all I'm saying. If you look at his track record and history, that's his expectation, and maybe he still's looking like it's still not enough around him.